Morning. My name is Larry Hamilton. Thank you for joining. This is going to be the first in a series of paintings that I'm going to demonstrate online and make available to those people who take my class at Britton Falls. Today we're going to do a painting of a Colorado sunrise, and you see a watercolor study over here, I'll be doing that painting and making it available online after this video is finished. I have a new way of displaying my palette. I actually have the palette here vertically. I'm getting a little running, as you can see, but I'm going to try to use it so that I have another camera that's actually focused on the palette and be able to show you the actual colors that I'm mixing, and hopefully that'll help you as we go through the painting. I have my usual colors. The Bob Ross method, as you know, is wet on wet, which means we already have the canvas covered in liquid white. I've already finished that, and it's really ready to go. A light, thin coat of liquid white, which is always the first step in the Bob Ross painting technique. The paints that we have on the palette today are titanium white, phthalo blue, Prussian blue, midnight black, Van Dyke brown, burnt sienna, or dark sienna as it's called, alizarin crimson, it's running all over the place as you can see, sap green, cad yellow, yellow ochre, Indian yellow, and bright red. So that's the standard palette, and I have another camera that, as I said, will show you periodically which colors I'm mixing for which parts of the painting. So I have my zoom camera here that I can control automatically. So this is really just me doing this. I have no help in the studio. I've set up my art studio to make a little video, and hopefully this will work, and we'll be able to show you how this painting is done, so that as the class begins, even before the class, I'm going to make it available for the September 19th class, and you can see how it's done maybe before you get to class. So to get started, we're going to start as our usual way. I've got the liquid white on, as I say, and we're going to start putting on the sky, and the sky is a very light blue. So as usual, I'll take my Prussian blue in this case and get a little Prussian blue on the brush, pick up a little white to lighten it up. We do get light from the painting because we have white on here already, and our typical method is making these X strokes in the sky, and I want them to come down about 1/4 to 1/3 of the canvas, and this will make a very beautiful soft morning sky. I should mention the painting that we're doing was suggested by one of the oil painting students, Terry Gimmo, and she had a photograph, and I've been able to use that to make a sample in watercolor to see how it looked, which it looks very good, as you can see, the watercolor painting, and we'll use that as the guideline for this instead of the actual photograph of the painting. So that's a start, and that's really step one, is to put in the sky. We're going to have some water in this painting, as you can see, so it's going to start somewhere about right in here, and it's going to move sort of this way. Actually moves all the way off the painting this way, and it comes down this way. So just put a little touch in there. It's not very important that you have that perfect. It's just sort of to tone the canvas a little bit to get rid of some of this stark white, and that'll sort of lead us in the direction that we need to go for putting in the water in the foreground. And so this is pretty much the sky. I think I'll darken the corners just a little bit, which is a good thing to do, which helps focus the eye in more toward the center of the painting. If you make the corners a little darker, it will help the eye go toward the center of the painting, which is really the focal point, and that's where we want the eye to go. So much of painting is about getting the viewer's eye where you want it and sort of causing their eye to move around the painting without a lot of distractions, and particularly if your painting is in a gallery of some sort, you would like to have them look at your painting and not move off to the person next to you. So I have that finished, and that's really step one. Next step is going to be to start with the distant mountains. I'm going to clean out my brush first, and I have my typical thinner here using a Bob Ross screen at the bottom of this coffee can, actually. And as I get the brush all cleaned out, it's very important to keep the brush clean, keep it dry as possible, make sure you get all the blue color out. Okay, so to start with the mountains, we're going to start with mountains on the have a lot of mountains in here. We have some that have a little bit of sort of a violet color, very pretty violet color, which is sort of in the distance. And as you'll recall, if you've taken the class before, mountains in the distance are actually more purple or more blue. So we're going to have this small little mountain back here in the distance. It's sort of a bluish color. Start with him, and add a little brown to that. I used alizarin and alizarin crimson and Prussian blue for that purple. I'm going to have a little mountain in front of this that's going to start about right here, sort of go this way, like that. Finish this one up a little bit, pull it down a little bit. I'm going to cover some of that up on the other side. So this mountain is going to be a little bit brownish in color. So I'm using my dark sienna, almost pure dark sienna on this mountain. Don't want to make it too dark, it has to be light because it is in the distance. Wipe off my palette knife. The next mountain has a little more blue in it. I'm going to pick up a little of this, has blue on one side and a sort of gray on the other. So I'm going to pick up this color that I have that's sort of bluish and finish that mountain over that way. Okay, so that's those three mountains. On the other side, we have some mountains that also have some blue in them. You need to gray that down. A good way to gray the blue down is to put some this dark sienna in it, and it will make a gray, sort of a steel gray, if you will. There's a mountain here that's sort of like this. Has another couple mountains in front of it. This is the first time I've done this painting in oil, by the way, so I'm going to experiment a little bit as we go, and I may make some mistakes, but that's how you learn. I'm going to go back and touch this mountain up a little bit with the brush, feather it out a little bit, take this mountain, feather it down a little bit, and then this mountain with the blue in it above it, bring them down like this. It doesn't look like it's too distinct right now. So what am I going to do? I'm going to, I have another smaller mountain here that has some of this ochre in it, and a little yellow. I'm going to put these combination of colors here. See if I can get this mountain that's sort of in the front. Not in the front. It's actually behind this mountain. It kind of goes between here and here, and it's actually got this mountain in front of it. I need to put that one in before I get too far along. Grab a little white here, lighten that up. See if that makes some difference. Okay, here we go. Try it like right about in here. That's that one there. We'll put that like that. A nice color on it. It goes in front of these three mountains on the left, but this mountain on the right, and then there's another one sort of like right up here that sort of goes up to a peak. Almost the same color. Put it in here. We'll start with this little job. I think it's the tallest one. There we go. Okay, it's looking kind of mucky. Go back and get some of my steel gray here that I made. Put a little white in it, lighten it up a little bit, see if I can get a little grayer. Okay, and that's this one here. I want it to kind of come over that one behind it. Time for a little black, maybe that'll help. Okay, there we go. Okay, there we go. That's a little better. Okay, so you can kind of see the what's happening here with the gray. I'm going to get myself a little gray that's got white and using the midnight black and just white, I get sort of this purpley gray. And so if you can see on the palette, we have a little bit of purple gray here, and we have sort of a greenish gray here. By using blue, Prussian blue, and dark sienna, we get this sort of a greenish gray. So we're getting a couple different shades of gray, which is good because I want to use this gray that has this more blue color over here, like this. I'll just drop it on. There we go. That's a little better. All right. These colors are going to stay about the same. This mountain here sort of comes down. It has a really dark blue cast to it back here in the back. So I want to make it sharper. Didn't make it quite as blue as I wanted, but at least it's distinct. This will make it just more distinct here, hopefully. Give me another paper towel. I'm not liking this very well, so I'm going to just start over with it. So what do? You just scrape it out, get yourself some more clean paint, and come back in here and try it again. This actually has a little green in it, I think. Yeah, that's what it's got in it. I'm missing some green. Okay, let's try this again here. We'll take this little job and go like this. Okay. That's a little better. It kind of dips off like that. And then over here, I want to make this guy with my steel gray. It's not steel gray. That's dark. That's midnight black and titanium. And if I put that right here over it like that, start getting the kind of color I want. This little mountain in the back is bigger than I intended it to be, but it's too late to mess with it now, so I'm not going to fool around with that any. I'm going to bring my brush up here and see if I can sort of fine-tune some of these things here a little bit. Make sure I got my brush clean, as much paint out of it as possible. There's that one. There's this one. These don't have to be too distinct because they're in it. They are in the distance, and you don't want to make them so distinct that they look like they're in the foreground. So we're going to keep them in the background here. Hopefully this will help us do that. And this one over here has even more color to it. Hopefully that's looking a little bit like the mountains in the distance. Okay, and I want to get this, put some more of this greenish color on top of that last mountain I worked on here. It's getting a little too dark for me. I want it a little bit lighter here on this side. Like that. Come down here, around. That. Okay. Then put some of this sort of steel gray on the back side of it and mix it with that yellow that's there. See what happens here. We're going to do it like this. Yeah, there we go. And I messed it up because I went over it too many times. How many times do I tell you not to go over it too many times? And that's exactly what I did. You should go over it once and then get off of it like that. Try to leave it alone. If I go back, I pull that yellow paint right back on top of it. This over here doesn't make too much difference. We're going to work on that with, put trees over that. We're going to have trees over this over here. So that's pretty close to what I'm looking for. Let me put just a touch of the sun is coming really from the left, so all the parts of these mountains on the back side are all darker. So you got to make sure that these mountains look darker on the back side than they do on the front. So that's what this is all about here. Okay, this little job coming down here like that. Let's just make it like this. There we go. We're getting a little bit of breaking in this mountain now that makes it look like there's some texture out there, some trees and whatever. That I think is pretty good. Just to make a little separation there like that. Okay. And these mountains don't have to overlap the exact way that painting does. We're trying to copy a painting that there, okay, all right, so that's a little better. All right, now see, all that sort of fades into sort of a middle ground here, and it has a lot of middle ground trees. It has some really nice grasses back there, and we want to try to show some of those if we can. And best way to do that is to mix up some of this yellow. We're going to get a little bit of this Indian yellow, put a little cad yellow in it. That gives a very bright color, maybe a little sap green. We start getting this color. I'm using a 1-inch landscape brush again, which is all I've used so far, the 1-inch landscape brush and the my palette knife. And so right in here, we're going to start back. We're going to start putting in some green. If we just come back with pure green right over the top of this, it will actually help us put in some of the grasses that we want to show. And we can change the color, put in some bright yellows, and it'll mix in nicely. Put in some, touch some blues. If we put blue on top of that, we'll start getting a darker textured color, and you can see how they come down like this. Some really nice dark streaks sort of going up the mountain. All I'm doing is just touching the end of the brush in the Prussian blue and just stippling it on top of what's there. And you can see how this makes a very nice looking distant set of grasses or trees. Who knows what they are, but they're pretty far in the distance. We really don't care too much about what they are. And that's about it. So that'll be the sort of the middle ground trees, not trees, but middle ground grass. And took me a little longer for these mountains than I thought, about 15 minutes. So I tracked my time here. So I've really got the mountains in the distance finished, and I have the middle ground grasses here. Now we're going to start putting in some trees, some pine trees. We'll start putting in, start the water. It is going to start right about right here, and it's going to come this way, and then we'll have some small trees that go up and down here using our typical method of making these pine trees. And we have some really bright oranges and yellows in here that I'm going to mix shortly and show you how we do that. The foreground is very interesting. The rocks in the foreground and the water that bubbles here in the foreground is very interesting. And we'll see how that works as we get to that. Okay, let's see. I'm going to clean out my brush, my big brush. And you hear me slap it back and forth here. I actually have a metal can and I'm able to hit it against to get some of the thinner out of it. And this will work. Okay. Now let's see here. Okay, so now it's time to pull out our fan brush. Fan brush is what we use for a lot of these pine trees, as you know. And we'll start up here with a fairly dark, we're going to get a dark green, which is going to be made with our Prussian blue, maybe a little bit of phthalo blue. Phthalo blue is a good dark staining blue, very potent. I'm going to put in some sap green in with that. We're going to put the background, the basic these pine trees back there. So we have some pine trees that sort of start here in the middle and exist. I need something darker. That trunk is not dark enough to stand out. Okay, so I'm going to put these little jobs in using the edge of the brush or the corner of the brush. I'm able to, these colors I'm using are phthalo blue, a little of midnight black, put a little sap green in there. You want it to be very dark so that it actually stands out from what's behind it. So if your background is lighter, you may have to put some more black or phthalo blue in it to get it to show up. So I'll put these in so you can just see the tops of these. These don't have to be really specific or real clear. They are in the middle ground distance, but the tops are what tell you what they are. So if you see the top out there, you know that that's probably a pine tree just because of the silhouette that you see off in the distance. And that's what fools the eye. That's part of the optical illusion of painting, is that you make the tops of these shapes look like something that people know what they are, and they say, oh, those must be pine trees. So that's what we're doing here. I'm going to get another set of dark using midnight black. Phthalo blue has a little bit of green in it, but I'm going to put another bush sort of right in here. Not a bush, but a pine tree. And we make it with the corner of the brush back and forth and keep it dark so that it shows up from what's behind it. Try that again with some more black phthalo blue, and I'm going to make a bigger tree now. This one's going to come above the mountain. So let's try it like right here. And I'm just making the vertical trunk, and when I go back to the top, I primarily use the corner of the brush to start with very carefully and hit small marks up here, and then move back down. And as we go down, we get a little wider, but we're doing it in a Z fashion. Z. Make the letter Z back and forth. Keep it dark. Make sure that it's darker than what's behind it. And just sort of bring it down into this foliage down here, because we're going to have some really bright foliage that's going to stick up here as well, including some bright yellow trees like aspen trees that are in the fall color. We'll put those on top. And then I have another couple more big trees that are over here on the left, so I'm going to get some more of this dark and make another one over here that's even a little taller. And same technique, straight line, use the corner of the brush, come down, leave little holes, little gaps, turn the brush up sometimes, turn the brush down sometimes. A mixture will actually make these things look more real if you vary what you're stippling on here. So sometimes there's gaps in these trees where the branches have actually broken off. So I'm actually adding a little more dark, Van Dyke brown out to this. So I've got my, get a little darker as I go to the side, and phthalo blue and Van Dyke brown, maybe a little sap green. It's a real dark color. And get that brush full, and come over here, and we're going to make another tree. It kind of runs right off the edge over here. And it's going to go down like this, and it's going to be even darker and a little heavier. And it's going to end about right there. So that's pretty much what I want on that side. I have a few of these pine trees on the other side, so I'm going to go ahead and put those in now while I've got this in my brush. I don't have to keep changing color. So there's one that's sort of in this area, right here. Put one in there. Come over here and get a little more paint. The paints I'm using are basically these phthalo blues, midnight black, Van Dyke browns, and I'm going to make these things stand out. So make sure they're darker than what's behind them, because if you don't, it'll all run together and look like mud. And we don't want mud, at least not right here. There may be places where you want mud, but we don't want it right here. So I'll leave that like that, and I'll put another, I think I got one more I'm going to stick in over here on the side, another couple trees down this way. And that's going to finish me off on this side. So basically I put these trees sort of randomly. They're different sizes, they're different heights, they're different widths apart. I talk about engineered trees. Another term that's used is called cloning, where you actually copy the same type of tree 3 or 4 times and it just looks like you rubber stamped it out. Some artists call that cloning. So over here, this is enough of this, and the rest I'm going to fill in with some really brights, yellows, and that'll do me there. Okay, so that's the next step of the middle ground trees, and I'm going to stop, log my time to make sure I know where we are here when we started. So I'm just keeping track of this so I know how long each of these steps take, and that helps me focus on my time when I'm teaching the class, actually, so that we don't end up running out of time. We get everything done. So I'm washing out my brush now to get the dark green out of there. We're going to start using some yellows. Cad yellow is a very bright yellow. We're going to add some red to that to get us an orange, and maybe a little bit of the dark sienna to give us a little more rusty color. So if I take my cad yellow, and this is going to put some over here by the red because that's where I want to get the orange going. So I'm going to get this color made over here on the palette of cad yellow and a little bit of this bright red. The bright red is so powerful it just overpowers everything you touch with it, which tells me I'm going to have to put some more cad yellow on my palette because I certainly don't have enough to do what I want to do in this middle ground with these trees. So I'm going to stick some more yellow on here. Hope it doesn't run down the palette. Okay, get that done. And I got these oranges. So while I got this orange in my brush, I'll come back here and find these places where I thought these trees had some orange in. So it was kind of like up here, had some orange, down in here, some over here on the side. But you see what happens as soon as I touch it into that green, I pick up the green, get the green on the brush. So you got to clean that brush out, make sure that you don't have the green polluting the yellow or the orange. Otherwise, you end up with mush again, which I got a little bit on the edge, but that's really close to the border of the canvas, so I'm not really too worried about that. I'll come back and stick some really bright yellows up here. And as I put the yellows over the green, I pick up more green in the brush again, which is not unusual. I'm going to put a base down here of some grasses. These are a challenge to put out here because with watercolor, the way I did it was I actually masked these areas off and was able to preserve them so that they didn't get painted with the green, and then I came back and put the green in afterwards. This one I'm doing it different to try to show these trees, and I may have to do it again because I'm really not liking how this is coming out right now. Mixing up these kinds of trees is really a challenge here. But it is really representative of the look of that type of tree in the fall. I'm going to put some yellows back here, oranges. It's taking a lot of cad yellow here. And I'm just going to dab it in. These are pretty thick little globs of paint. You can't see it up close like I can, but I have some pretty thick paint on this brush to make these yellow bushes in the distance here. And again, as soon as I touch the canvas with it, I pick up the green and it starts polluting what's on my brush, so you can only stipple a couple of times before you have to get off of it and clean your brush out. So these are interesting little challenges that we haven't had in some other paintings that we've done. Just putting on raw cad yellow here. And it just turns to green. There, okay. Pick up some white, stick in there, and lighten it up. Try to get that green out of the brush if we can. I stipple through here, I end up sort of merging some of this together, which is not a bad thing to do. And it gives a look of some distant weeds and grasses at the bottom of these areas. Put a little more red on that, see if I can get some orange out of it there. Yeah. Okay, I got another one stuck in here. Maybe the right way to do this would have been to put the yellow on first while the paint was clear, and then come back and put the dark over it. Typically with oil paints you paint dark and then paint light on top of it, but given the way these trees are intermingled with the dark greens, it might have made more sense to put the yellow down and then come back and put the black and the green inside it. I don't know how that looks on camera. It looks kind of mucky up here close by, but I'm getting some of the flavor of those trees in there. I don't want them to be so gaudy that they take the eye out from anywhere else, but I'm going to try some trees as we move down the bank here on the left side. I'm going to try to put some of those yellows in purely here and move them down, see if that makes a difference in the way the paint looks, and we'll put the greens on second. So we'll try that and see if that works as I clean out my brush and try some pure cad yellow. Cad yellow. Loading up my fan brush with cad yellow, and I'm going to start right in here and put in some just pure cad yellow. And I'm going to load it down and see how that looks. I'm going to put some down here and a little more down here. There's a little green top on them. I've picked up a little green on my brush, but I'm going to put that in this way and see if that's a better way to paint, because I may use that when I teach the class, because I'm learning as I go here how this particular color works on this painting. Because you usually don't know until you get into it how it's going to look and even how it's going to work. So that's why I always try to do one of these paintings before class to have a sample, and the sample helps me know what works and what doesn't work and what to do next, and how to sort of take this into the right colors, the right textures, so that it really looks like it's what you're intending it to look like, which is part of the problem of painting, is that you need to make these things look like they're bushes or trees or something. And one way to show that, there's a lot of color in there. It's a little hard to distinguish what it is. So I'm going to take some darks in my fan brush now. I'm going to pull this brown, this dark sienna in the brush. I'm going to go back over and touch some of the bottoms and the shadow areas of these, where these little bushes and trees are here. So we'll see if that helps to bring out the definition of what's in there. So I'm just stippling again, using the corner, sort of the edge of this brush, to make it look like we've got some dark leaves or whatever underneath these trees on the left side, these bushes on the left side. There are more bushes than they are trees, I would say. So I got more down here below that I can do the same thing. I'm going to go back and follow this bank while I got this dark sienna on here. Try to minimize the number of color changes in my brush if I can, so that I don't end up having to completely wash the brush out every time I turn around. Back in here I got some more darks, and I'm going to put a dark bank under this thing, under these areas back here. It gets a little darker in the distance where the sun is not quite as bright. So I'm going to flip some of this darker color back here and sort of hide some of these whites. I got too many whites floating around back here. So that helps define that back bank. These little angles, and notice the angle of this brush, this is going to help define the side of this bank as it comes around the water. So you want those angles to represent the lay of the land, basically. So I'm putting a little brush stroke in there to say these things kind of go this way, and they get a little wider as they come forward. But they're going to really curve around and basically be horizontal here as we get up toward the front. So that's sort of the outline of this side of the bank. And over here we have a similar thing going on, but it's really pretty narrow back here, and it starts widening out as we come this way. So I'm just putting myself in sort of a guide here, if you will, to say this is where you want this water to go. Something like that. So that sort of defines the banks of the water for me, and you can see the where it should be, and I can come back over that with the blues now and start fixing that up. Over here on this side, I've got a lot more room for some oranges and yellows on the right side, and so I don't want to repeat exactly what I did on the left side. So I'm going to try to change it up a little bit. I'm going to pull out my fancy number 10 filbert brush, which most of you should have, or all of you probably have. And these strokes will be a little different on this side. So we're going to use the same colors. We're going to use cad yellow and cad orange, or the orange that I've made with cad yellow and bright red. But I'm going to go and put the same thing, same type of strokes in over here with yellow. And I'm stippling again using this filbert brush this time, which has a nice rounded top on it, and gives me some interesting shapes and gives me some interesting colors. I can mix some browns in there. I can come back and get some orange in this brush and start putting some oranges in. So I'm getting these really fall-looking colors here. And again, I have to keep watching my brush as it fills up. I get these other colors in. I have to go back, put some more red in or put some more yellow in, because the colors all turn to gray if you just keep using the same brush without cleaning it out or without getting fresh paint. So now I'm putting in more bushes over here. There's a mixture of bushes that are green and yellow. They have some greens over here. I think I'll come back and put some dark green. I'm going to take my Prussian blue and my sap green together. I'm going to put a row in here of some green stuff going up and down. Notice these are not same width, same height. Got little bumps, tall bumps. Put some brown back in there to darken some of these areas. I'm just using this filbert brush and stippling with it. It's making some nice little tops and some things that look like bushes back here. And I still haven't cleaned my brush. I've wiped it out a couple of times on paper towel, but I want to get some more oranges in here. I'm going to put in some this sort of rust color comes in when I mix the brush on top of that orange. Clean some of that out, get me some more cad yellow here, and try another layer here, if you will. So I'm just kind of jamming this in. I'm not really paying much attention to making specific bushes or whatever. I'm just making something that looks like bushes and merging with the bank over here. So this looks like this is a real bank. I can come back and touch that up later, but right now I just want to sort of start getting this feel that this bank comes this way and sort of rises to a little hill area like, and then it sort of flattens out down here. So the brush strokes are what tell that story. The brush strokes go this way, it says that land is rising. The brush strokes are level, it says that ground is flat. So the view this picture has is sort of up on a higher plane looking down, but you can still see the difference in the level or the angle of the ground here on the right side, and it tells you what that ground looks like. Okay, that's starting to look like something worthwhile. I'm going to get a little more red here, mix it up here. This bright red, we're using a lot of bright red and cad yellow in this thing today. So I'm going to come back and put some more of these bushes in. I'm just using the side of the brush, just stippling it in. They're not specific. They're not trying to make a specific type of bush, but it's different than what's on the left side. And I think I'm going to put a few of these colors over on the left side now using this filbert, which seems to be working very well for me right now. Get some of these oranges and put some of that over here on the left side, and kind of take out a few of these whites that's kind of left, and start defining the bank a little more over here on this side. And we have rocks. We're going to put some rocks out here in the middle of the stream, and so it's starting to look a little bit more like getting some depth in there anyway. The more you put, more things you stack in front of things behind it, the more depth you create. So the idea is to keep putting layer after layer, showing the difference between a light color and a darker color, darker value, and as you pull them together, they all of a sudden starts looking like you've got some interesting things going on there, even though they're not very specific, because that's not the main part of the painting. I want you to really look in here. We're going to have some neat rocks and some color changes in here is kind of going to be the focal point. And so I want the eye to come into here and then move around the painting that way. So that's the idea. I got to record my progress here. Okay, near middle trees, about 15 minutes worth. Okay. Now we've been working about 50 minutes now, and I'll see what the timing is on my video cameras. Hopefully they're still recording and haven't stopped, so I don't want to have to do this again. However, I'm going to put some dark, using some of my midnight black, putting in here a few spots. I'll do a little bit on the left side as well. There's some places that really are in deep shadow, and even along here, along the bank, you start to see some things back here in the distance that look like they might be rocks or some sort of thing that's kind of in the shadow here. It helps define this bank area where there's a bunch of rocks and that sort of thing. So it's almost too much contrast, but it helps break up sort of this one color or multiple colors. It's a value change is what I'm trying to get at. We have a real light value, a mid value, we want a dark value. So typically you would like to try to put all three values in. If you can do that, it helps give more three-dimensional perspective. It helps show the viewer that you've got a lot more going on in there than just one-note color. You don't like one-note colors. In the distance here, I didn't go back and put in some like trees and other things, which I typically do with my palette knife. And so in the distance we can put in we'll flick in some things that actually, as we cut through the canvas, you can see these things make some interesting shapes. Over here, we don't need a lot of this stuff, but it shows that there might be some trees that have either died or have some white bark on them. A lot of these areas have white bark. I'm going to throw in some vertical slices with my knife. See me do this periodically. I'll throw these in. Looks like some trees or something sticking up. And again, you can kind of overdo this very quickly, but it adds some variety to that background where you have some gaps that need to be filled in. In here we could put in a few more scrapes to show that there's some, I don't know, just branches and things that are kind of sticking in there. Actually scrape out quite a bit to look like a tree, as I did over here. That's about enough of that. Always think about that. Put something in the distance that looks like you have some something going on back here other than just one boring color. So it's adding interest to the background, middle ground. This is really middle ground. breaks it up so that it doesn't look like it's too boring. We don't want it to be boring. All right, back to my filbert. Where am I here? I want to start working now on some of the other bushes over here. We got some other bigger bushes over here. I might even use, instead of my filbert, I might use this landscape brush because it's got bigger bristles. I can make bigger marks with it over here very quickly. However, I need some more cad yellow. Cad yellow is going to be heavily used in this painting, I can tell. I'm already on my third squirt of it on my palette, so I have to make sure that everybody has enough cad yellow. So I'm going to put the cad yellow on first, taking my big 1-inch landscape brush and sort of loading it up with yellow. I'm going to try to paint where I don't have any paint on the canvas so that I don't get it polluted with other colors. I'm going to put a little more here. And I'll come back and fill that in and tie those together in a minute. Below that I want to put in some yellow ochre. And so I'm going to get a little darker here. And I'm going to mix it up. Again, I'm stippling, just pushing the brush, hitting the canvas like that. I'm going to follow that with a little bit of orange. This orange that I made over here. These aren't very descriptive either, really. I don't want the eye to go over here. I don't want to make this so interesting that everybody looks over here. I want everybody to look over here. So I'm trying to make sure that I don't make this too distinct. On top of that, I'm going to throw in some other bushes that sort of set below here. There's some dark stuff here on the corner. It's not quite dark enough. Put some brown in there. We'll get it darker. There we go. Okay. So I want this corner to be dark. I want I don't want people to have to look off the canvas that way. So I'm putting in a little more yellow ochre up here. Stick some of that in right here. Sort of helps close off that corner so that the eye doesn't walk off the page that way. I don't want any white things showing this way so that the eye can walk this white line and get out of the painting. I don't want that to happen. I'm trying to keep the eye over here. So the idea is to make sure that we don't put too much there that's of interest, that we keep it dark and fairly nondescript, which I did. I'm putting in some rust color now. I'm picking up just some different colors. Again, these are nondescript bushes and that sort of thing. I think that's pretty good. I may put a couple of those, this little yellow ochre and rust color that I can make out of it here on the left side. I've got some other things to go over here. So I want this to sort of come down and do something similar. I'm going to put some more rocks in this left corner to darken it so that I have something over here that keeps the eye from going too far off this way. I want it to be darker because of shadows that come across here, and we got to put those shadows in later. So that's enough with the big brush. I'm going to wash out my my big 1-inch landscape brush and get rid of it for a while. I think I'm going to come back with my filbert. Actually, I think I'll come back with this fan brush. I think that looks a little better. Get this fan brush going here. It should be clean. I'm going to put in some other things over here to close out some of these whites and to put some more darks in over here. So I'm really going to go into the dark color. It was this midnight black that had some phthalo blue in it. The colors I used over here, I'm going to echo them over here in some bush-like things that show some greenery going on here. So we see there's a combination of yellows and greens going on. And I'll have them attached to the ground, make sure they're not standing like I glued them on. A good way to do that is to use the fan brush and just sort of flick underneath them like that, and all of a sudden I not only outlined this little yellow bush here, but it makes it look like there's something dark going on behind it. It's called negative painting in watercolor. You don't do as much negative painting in oil paintings as you do in watercolor, simply excuse me, simply because you paint positively in oils. You put paint on top of paint, and you don't paint around things nearly as much in oils as you would in watercolor. Okay, let's see what I got going on the left side over here. A few things. I think that's probably good enough for right now. I don't need to do a lot more. I'm going to connect this a little dark in here. There we go. Okay. All right, this looks like, here's what I talk about cloning. When you talk about something that looks identical, here is a little bush, and 1 inch away is another little bush. That was my filbert brush where I stamped it here and I stamped it there. End up getting a clone. So what do you do about that? Well, you mess one of them up, basically. You come in and do something like that, and all of a sudden they don't look alike. So I don't have the same bush there twice. So you want to be careful about cloning in your painting so you don't end up with too much that looks alike. I call it engineered. I have people in my class that have been engineers, a lot of guys that like to make things that look put together in terms of exact dimensions, and that never works in nature because nature is not that way. Basically, man makes things and puts them 1 inch apart or 14 feet apart, but nature doesn't. So when we're painting nature, we have to break that mold, that part of our brain that says make these things look alike, make this look like a fence row. So if you notice the trees, if you notice these bushes, this is a little bit different shape than that shape. This yellow shape is a different shape. So you're trying for variety in shapes, you're trying for variety in heights, sizes, textures, and colors. That's all part of composition. That's what makes paintings look good. That's what people like to see when they look at your paintings. So the more you can do that, the better chance you'll have of getting positive comments on your paintings. I'm going to go back and get some of this phthalo blue now in this fan brush. I'm going to start back on the left side of my water. Start putting in some, I'm starting in the center and pulling to the left. I'm not pulling from the right in, or from the left in, I'm pulling from the center to the left. So this is all part of the water that's coming along. And this is darker on the left side because it's in shadow over here. And I can mix that up a little, my other blue, which is the Prussian blue. I'm going to start sort of drawing this edge along here, which is where the water is sort of rippling down, and it's going to hit some rocks right in this area. We're going to put some rocks in here, but we want these strokes to go horizontal. If you don't make them horizontal, it looks like the water is running uphill or downhill, which is not natural, and you're telling the eye something that's not true. So try to make them as much as you can horizontal. So back here I'm going to touch in some of this blue, this other blue, which is sort of a purplish color. I mixed my Prussian blue with just a little bit of alizarin, and I want it to sort of come down this way, and it's going to feed along here, and it's going to really come out this way. We're going to have some rocks, and the color is going to change a little bit, but this idea of having some ripples in here, I'm going to just leave white paint right now. You can see that maybe is starting to look like it's a stream that goes off in the distance and goes behind these trees and behind these rocks in the back. So the idea is to get that sort of purplish, keep it purplish, and get it more purplish down here. I'm going to get some more Prussian blue and crimson and start putting it in down here like this. So we're just using horizontal strokes with this color. So that's sort of outlining again the side of the banks of that creek that's running this way and running toward us. And I'm going to clean out my brush again while I've got a second here. Where are we on background timeline. Okay, foreground trees, rocks, and water. Okay, that's what we're working on. Foreground trees, rocks, and water. The rocks, you can go crazy. This particular painting had a million rocks in it, and I really don't want to go through and put all those rocks in. It's sort of a exercise in futility in my mind, because you can paint them impressionistically and make things look like rocks without having to put a lot of rocks in. I'm going to go back and lighten some of this bank area back here where we've got the sun kind of coming through. I'm taking a little titanium white. I'm going to mix a little bit of like cad yellow with it, so we end up with this little bright area starting to shoot through. These are areas that are going to be where we're getting light from the sun shooting across here, that's actually lighting up parts of this bank and parts of the water. And what's in between is the shadows, of course. And so to keep that shadow going, I'm going to put a little more of that purple in, which I had alizarin and Prussian blue. So those areas in between are going to get darker. I'm going to start pulling it out this way and pulling it across. So if I put that purple in there with alizarin, I'll start looking like I've got some shadows. I want those shadows to go right up to the trees there. And on this area, I'm going to have this area to be darker. And it's going to go up to the trees and kind of come out into the water a little bit. And as you make it look dark, it's starting to show the bank. Also, the angle of the brush makes it look like what's happening here. So I'm putting a little dark over this. And it shows that it's connected up here. Wipe that brush out. Make sure you don't get a lot of this orange color on top of it. You want this to be dark. You want it to sort of flow together. There's going to be some more darks in here. Again, I'm using Prussian blue, alizarin crimson to get this sort of a dark violet color. I'm just laying it on top of what's out here. And all of a sudden, with the right brush strokes, we end up with these kind of things that look like they're dark shadows coming out of the woods. These things are all in shadow. So make it that way. Now those are almost three identical shadows, which I don't like. Sort of clone them, which I tell you not to do. So I'm going to make this one a little wider, a little bit different shape, make it come down this way. And go out into the water that way. Okay, that's good. All right, and then I'm going to use that same color while I got it on the brush. I'm going to come over here and start hitting some really darks down here at the bottom. And I want to put another rock or two, excuse me, in this area. And this will sort of finalize this shadow area. And I may, if I have some time, I may come back and put some little brown spots back there that look like rocks. But primarily that's the idea about getting these things to show shadows that run clear across the water, actually. And some of these are, and the other rocks and some of the frothiness is in here. We're going to do that with the white, in a minute. Okay, so that is that side of the bank, the left side of the bank, as we're looking at it. And make sure that we got enough dark up here to fulfill that kind of a shadow. So I'm just pulling that dark back in that area to make sure that we got some good darks. Those contrasts are what really make this thing look right. If you get dark contrast against light contrast, things start showing up much better. Okay, so the left side is pretty well done except for a rock or two and then some rocks in the water down here. I'm going to work on this area now on this side and sort of draw this bank in. I see as I look at the painting there's some really bright yellow trees sticking out that sort of go over the rocky areas. There's even a couple little blobs of pure yellow trees that just sort of stick up on their own. So I'm going to take some cad yellow in this fan brush, get one corner loaded pretty heavily, and I'm going to come back here and start touching it in right here like this. There's a couple that are sitting out like that. And see, as soon as I touch it, I pick up the paint that's underneath, which is always a problem painting in this method, and the fact that we don't let this paint dry and come back a week later and finish it off. But that's part of the challenge of painting wet and wet, is that you work with the colors, work with the paints, and make it so that you can still get it done without having to let it dry. I'm going to put some dark sienna on my fan brush now, and I'm going to touch under the bottom of these trees to identify them a little bit so that you know that there's something going on there. Just flicking up some little weeds and grasses and things. Don't have to do much more than that. It tells the story, it tells the eye that there's some sort of trees there, some sort of branches underneath, dark branches. And if I wanted to put a third color in there, I could put some of this rust color that I've got on the palette here, sort of on the back side. And again, it's trying to pick up the yellow, and it's a little hard to do. I'm making this almost too much detail here, but I want to show you that you can do that and put those in. I feel like I need a little more dark in here to kind of separate some of this stuff so that it has a better look. So I have some nice looking things going on back here. I have some grass showing through. I have some rust colored bushes, still have some bright yellows. So it's starting to look like the way I want it to look. Now I want to start putting a few rocks. This is getting closer to us in the foreground, so I want to put some rocks here and start defining this bank just a little more. Put a little dark stuff in here and maybe come out this way. I'm just trying to get myself set up so I can put some rocks in there and make it look like it's fully the bank of a river. So I'm going to clean out my fan brush once again. Get me some more paper towel. I can't work without paper towel in my left hand. Okay, we're back. I'm sorry I had a little break there. We had a power failure. Plus my video camera ran out of tape, so I don't know exactly where it left off, but let me explain where I am. If you can see up close, I actually have put some rocks in, and oh, well, you can see them, but I actually have some along the bank here, along the bank on this side, some in the middle. We're going to make the water flip over these rocks in the middle so that it looks like a little waterfall, which we've done before. And I think that will put you back where we were to start with. And we're going to get this started again. So we're just about finished, but I wanted to finish off the front of the water and some other fine details, and we'll be all set. Okay, so we're ready to go. So what I was using was my filbert brush, and I was putting rocks in with my filbert, and I got most of those finished here. I was using a little bit of Van Dyke brown with some black underneath it. I used a little gray that I made up with white and my midnight black. And so pretty much I've got this done here in the front. I'm going to just touch a few more dark spots here to sort of highlight the underneath part of these rocks. So these rocks are all made with the filbert brush. I haven't made any of them with the with my palette knife, which is a normal way to make some rocks. At least it has been. But I like this, the way the filbert works, and the types of rocks and the types of things you can get from it. So I'm going to continue to use it, and I'm going to close in the bottom of this down here so that it's nice and fairly dark. Let me put a little blue over the top to make it look like it's darker, and there's water rippling around over here somewhere. So that's pretty much what I want to do on this area. Put rocks clear out here, put some smaller rocks as you go back in the distance. Put a few rocks back here, but they're usually lighter and lighter in color, and they don't have quite as much distinct, not quite as distinct. They just kind of look fuzzy and you're not sure what they are back there, but there's some rocks back there. And don't want the viewer to spend a lot of time going back there and looking, but that'll do it. So that's the end of my rocks. I'm going to get my fan brush out now. We're going to put some water over the tops of these using pure titanium white, which means we have to be very careful, because as we take white on this brush and move it over these rocks, it's going to pick up the color of the rock, and when it does that, it pollutes the paint. We have to clean it out. So make sure you have a good clean paper towel handy. And we're going to start with our pure titanium white here. Just get a good brush full. And we're going to start back here. We're going to start putting in some white ripples. And as we come forward and we hit these rocks, we're going to make some things splash over them like this. And it picks up the dark paint immediately. And it doesn't take much, just one little stroke right over the top, and these things start looking like there's water running over them. And you can put in some foaminess here. This water I'm stippling now with the brush, just kind of pushing in and making some of these little ripples in the water that you would see the sun hitting off the water. Underneath is the ripples. And on top we're going to connect that with clean the brush out, because I picked up a bunch of brown in there. Clean white on the brush, and just come back on top and just go over it like you would a waterfall. And if you pick up too much brown, go back and get some more. And it just goes on, it comes out here and comes down over this rock. So we're just getting a nice lot of splashiness going on here. And darken this up a little bit if we want. It's a little bit too light down here in the bottom. This is all in shadow, so let's make it a little darker, and it'll help make those ripples even stand out more. So I'm just darkening this, putting a little Prussian blue on it, as usual. And we get some nice little dark spots. Get some little, as we put these things underneath, the dark spots underneath actually make it look like there's more ripples going on. So don't have to do a whole lot more than that. Might put a few more on the right side here, get some little ripples going over this way. As the water comes down, it sort of does this and sort of just splashes and has, as Bob Ross would say, has just a good time here floating around. Some of this can be sort of smoothed out so that it looks like it's sort of rippling back here and just sort of running back. That's not too bad right there. I'm going to pretty well stop, I think. So our video probably ran about 70 minutes, I want to say. 70, 75, which is about the amount of time it takes me to do one of these paintings. And so it'll take us, we will allow 4 hours in our class, but that's because I take time to go around the room and make sure everybody's got the right paints, make sure everybody's doing it right, and if they have any questions, I try to help everyone. So hopefully that will put a little lighter color in here in some of these shadows. They're almost too stark, seems like. I'll lighten those up a little bit. Okay, what else do I need to do here? I think that's pretty much it. These things over here I'll lighten up a little bit. Putting in this nice ochre color has been able to make these, don't want this to be too distinct over here, There's all kind of reeds and junk growing around between and among these rocks. Some of it's green, some of it's not green, some of it's burnt from the sun, but it's a interesting little bank over there. Anyway, I think that's about all I want to do. This particular painting came from, as I said, Terry Gemmel, who brought it to me and asked if we could do it in our next painting class. So that's why we're doing it, and I hope you like it, and I hope you show up with your paints and ready to go, and we will have fun as usual. I'm just putting some spots in here around this to sort of break this up a little bit so it doesn't look too boring, and wherever I feel like it needs it. Maybe a few more spots back here. That's a little lighter because it's not quite as dark back there. Okay, I think I'm going to stop with that and say that's the end of our painting session today. And hopefully you like this painting, and we will be making it available in photograph form. I'll be sending it around to everybody who signs up. And we will do this painting on September 19th. And I hope you can make it, and I hope you enjoy the painting if you can't make it.